Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with midwifery business consultation and empowering midwifery education. I'm sitting right now in our brand new birth center. I don't look as beautiful as I usually do. When you open a birth center and have everything going on, the place looks beautiful, and then you just keep yourself together in the backdrop. So be patient with me, but I wanted everybody to get updates from Amanda Wylie. She runs an amazing bookkeeping service, Abundant Life Bookkeeping. She's my number one go-to when people have bookkeeping questions, services. I know she's working with getting some great accounting resources together and scaling up her practice. So Amanda and I have known each other for years, and she has by far the highest caliber bookkeeping service for midwives and birth centers.
Thank you, Leslie, for having me on. Even though you're exhausted and worn out, appreciate the time to
Yeah,
just chat.
the passion drives you, the persistence when you know how important these things are. Yes, you're tired, but you wake up doing things that you love, even though it's hard work. It's not I see people that are like plumbers or like they have to go to the big corporate hospital jobs. I was like, I would rather work my butt off opening birth centers
Yes.
any day of the week.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited you're at the end of the process.
Yes. We have worked very hard since April in the home stretch and the big open house. So yes, people need your bookkeeping services and resources when they're opening their private practices. And they just don't know what they don't know. I talk often about quick tip in the government and taxes and categorizing. And so, yeah, if you want to tell them, if they've never seen your stuff before, what your business is about, who you are, and what we're going to talk about today.
Sure. So I have been interested in birth and midwifery since I was 11, and I worked with a just assisted local home birth midwife for 6 years before I started having kids. And now it's just not a season of time for me to be involved in birth, but I love the fact that my team and I get to support midwives across the United States with their bookkeeping. Really, we want midwives to have sustainable businesses, and part of that is having clear books so that you know how much you're really making, how much you're really spending, and that you're not paying taxes on more than you should, and that sort of thing. So anyway, so we love serving midwives and have been doing that for a couple of years now.
Perfect. And then I know one of the things you wanted to talk about was kind of what are some common things you're seeing, whether someone tries to do their books themselves or if they've done their bookkeeping services with someone else. And I know you and we get frustrated. We tend to be more reactive when we'd like to be much more proactive for midwives. We're putting out fires versus stopping the fires from happening. So I think you wanted to give some examples and things that maybe it'll kind of ping to the midwives like, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things is I know midwives go into business to serve their clients, their customers, their patients, their the families that trust them, and they just pour all of their time and their energy into that. And then bookkeeping seems like it should be easy, and so maybe they wait until the end of the year, and then it's hard to remember what expenses were. So one of the things that I just feel like is really important, and we encourage midwives to do, is to set up a bookkeeping system from the get go. There's a lot of different softwares. We specialize in QuickBooks Online, and unfortunately, there's going to be a learning curve to whatever software that you're using. But the benefit is that at the end of the year, you come tax time, you're not scrambling, trying to make sure that you are accounting for all of the income
It
and all
just
of the
takes so much
expenses.
longer. Like, yeah, it's kind of
Yes.
like real-time charting versus you wait a couple days because you're tired. And like, it's the same concept because you're like, what was that from on this date? My husband does it all the time. If we get into 3 months behind versus even just 30 days, like, what did you buy this for on this day? And then I got to dig and then I got to look at my calendar. I got to figure it out versus you just do it
Yes.
that day and you know, yeah.
Sure, sure. That day is really the best. I know we reach out to our clients once a month with questions that are not obvious to us about what that expense was. And honestly, sometimes I can't remember what I spent money on yesterday and I have to go look. So even at least every month, hopefully you can at least put your hand on the receipt, or you can look back in your calendar and maybe
Yeah.
jog your memory a little bit better. But so important. So one of the things though that just come across lately is people don't know how to read their financial statements. And I understand that because, again, they didn't go into business for that. But if you are not sure how to read it, and let's just talk about the balance sheet for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So often I'll look at a balance sheet and I'll see maybe the main checking account that our client is using, but maybe there's some other accounts too. And they didn't realize that sometimes if they set up payments through QuickBooks and they're accepting some payments that way, if they don't tell QuickBooks where to connect that payment to when it's received, then QuickBooks just creates its own account.
Yeah.
And so suddenly you look like you have 3 or 4 different
Lots of money.
accounts.
And then you're like, I don't want to pay taxes. I don't have any. And you're like, well, you didn't like put it in the right place. Yeah.
Exactly. And the problem with that is that, for instance, the QuickBooks account that QuickBooks thinks it's been depositing the payments into, and then when they actually come into your bank account, you're depositing them. So all of a sudden in your books, you have duplicate income, and you're
Mhm.
paying more in taxes than you
Yeah.
were planning to and want to and should.
Yeah. Yeah.
So make sure y- you don't have to um yeah, if you don't understand something, make sure that you're asking questions, or find someone that will answer those questions for you. If your tax
Mm,
preparer doesn't want to take the time to do that, make sure you find someone who
mm.
can help you understand, like, why are there accounts on here that aren't my bank accounts?
Yeah, yeah.
Super
Yeah, because
important.
the goods and bads of syncing and automation, and you're like, no, 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 that was a personal expense. Well, you accidentally used the business card for it, so it's going to transfer that way. Or you use the personal, and you try the best you can to not commingle funds. And I always put a disclaimer when we have these chats. You and I are not financial planners, accountants, lawyers, legal, but we definitely know the laws and can help, and people just need to customize it. But it's one of those frustrations that you can make things simple. You can have a personal checking and savings, you can have a business checking and savings, but if you're going to transfer money, you have a loan one way and then you have an income the other way. You can't just ebbs and flows, because it looks like income and it looks like you get double income when you're like, that's not really in my bank account. Yeah.
Exactly. You want to make sure in QuickBooks Online that that's categorized to owner's draw, so that, or owners, if you're having to contribute some money to your business for whatever
A
reason,
loan, yeah.
well, or
Wasn't a donation.
maybe you paid something from the
Right,
business with your personal funds, and
right,
you need to
right,
like replace those funds. You
right.
just want to make
Makes
sure,
sense.
yeah, you want to make sure you're categorizing those correctly.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, the government's getting a lot more IRS agents, and it's not going after their rich friends. It'll be you and I. So, I mean, we have to, as a business, like, people think, well, I'll just do it with my personal and not worry about it because it's just a few bucks here and there. And I'm like, it adds up fast. If you realize
yes,
and actually calculated in your head the 30 to 45% you are losing because you just decided that dollar you now just paid a dollar 50. You just paid 50% inflation because you chose to do it personally because it was easy and convenient. So we have to get people to think differently about it, but then also get a system. Oh, it's just too much work to keep the receipts and keep track. And if I do it conservatively, then I won't get audited, and all these myths they tell each
uh, yeah. Well, and another one of the things that I hear a lot is that it's sufficient to just have your bank statement. And that is not acceptable to the IRS. If you want to be able to capture those expenses, then you need to be able to put your hand on the receipt.
other.
And it's acceptable if it's in the cloud. If you take a picture and you put it in Drive, I mean, there are programs that can and help with receipt capture, but I mean, it's easy to take a picture and just
Yeah.
put it in
They
Google
need to
Drive
know
where
the
you can
details.
find
They
it.
don't care about the number. Okay, this is $10, but what did you buy the $10 with? Walmart. Okay, well, what did you
Yeah,
buy at Walmart? Like, people that you
exactly.
have
You
to
might have
just
bought gauze
spend.
at Walmart, but they don't know. The IRS doesn't know that you didn't buy something, for personal. So
Mhm,
they need to
mhm.
know what you're spending. So yeah,
Yeah.
not enough to have just statements.
Yeah, yeah. And there's many ways to do it. You can have it as simple as complex as you want. We start out and we have a template for a lot of people with your bookkeeping course you have for us, that there's an Excel spreadsheet. If you want to start, you're not quite ready for QuickBooks, it's simple, you're in the planning phase, you just want to keep track of things. You just need something. And then I love QuickBooks, and it's pretty affordable. But if you're new and you're starting a business and you don't want that expense for 5, 7, what we found with our businesses is we tend to, especially if we're starting at like 2 to 4 months before the end of the year, we just do the Excel spreadsheet simple version, and then we convert over at the first of the year, because it gets really confusing if you try to like do one style halfway through the year and then you get audited. So those are little nuances we've learned, is like, hey, try to have a consistent flow. If you're like,
Mhm.
especially like I start a lot of companies and like it's in the red for a while and you're kind of overlapping and commingling, you just need a good tracking of those things. And so, but if you're doing like a simple Amish practice, you could do you just keep track of it so you have a defense for the next, is it
Yes.
7 years still, or did they extend it?
Oh, I don't know that,
Yeah.
but I know one of the things, for instance, a lot of the midwives I talk to, they don't have any loans, but occasionally we do come across maybe someone has started a birth center and they have needed to take out some loans. And the way that you track that is just different. The payment on that loan is not an expense to the company.
Mm-mm.
But the interest is, so you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you are capturing the interest on that, because you want
Yeah.
every deduction that you can get. Um,
And the
between
biggest thing,
no,
like you
it's not.
said, it's you're not getting double taxed on it. The biggest thing is you want the loan to give track when you're giving it back to yourself. You're just paying yourself back for what you've already been taxed. And if you
Exactly.
don't have that tracking system, you're going to get taxed on it twice. So,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, we don't want that.
So yeah, so
Um,
I think those are definitely things. I mean, people, when we do business startups, especially with people coming to me for consulting work, they already know I'm like, you need a marketer, you need a biller, you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need a bookkeeper. These are your mastermind business key people. Like, I don't care how tiny or small you are. If you want to outsource it to your brother or someone that is knowing what they're doing for a little while, that's okay. But they still, some capacity, have to be on your team. It's a lot to expect out of you to learn and keep up with. And you don't
mhm.
want cracks in your business foundation, truly, because you got too busy being a midwife. And those receipts just go higher and higher, and then they get water spilled on them and they get water damage and you can't read them anymore. Like, it's not worth it. The government is not someone you don't want to be able to defend yourself against. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so one of the free programs is Wave also. It's not one that I personally used, but I mean, when we're talking about uh
Getting started,
I
yeah, an
mean,
Excel
a
spreadsheet or
spreadsheet works
a
for some
free,
people.
yeah,
The
start.
benefit of some, of a program online is just to be able to connect it to your bank account. So those
Yep,
transactions are
yep, you
pulled in
can sync
and
it.
you can
Mhm.
categorize them. Maybe it saves a little bit of possible human error and manual entry.
Yep.
Um, but if you can use a spreadsheet, it's a great place to start. Just start, just start.
Something, yeah. Don't just say, "Well, I'm gonna the shoebox." I don't count the shoebox on that list. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. But you have systems, like you said. It's all about habit. It's not hard, like you said. There's tons of apps. You can take
Yes.
pictures. I mean, our old school way we've done for years. I stick all the receipts in my center console. My middle child is my little scanner and bookkeeper. He has a whole system, and every Friday he grabs them out and he gets paid for it. And so, like, this is a great way to pay your kids and get them involved. And
Yeah.
I don't want to remember, oh, I got to take a picture every time. I just got gas and now I have
Yes.
to sit there for 30 seconds and do it. I'm just like, I throw it in my center console. So you got to figure out a weird, quirky way that works for you. And that's
Yes.
okay. But
Yes.
you have to do something. It's a habit. It's not that it's hard. It's just thinking differently, because most people, whether you're a midwife that's worked in a hospital system and now doing private practice, or this is your first business, we aren't ingrained to keep our receipts. We aren't ingrained, well, I've already paid my taxes on it. I already paid it on the receipt. Why do I keep this? So you have to get yourself in the habit of, this is important with business. I want you to maximize legally the tax deductions, but you've also got to have a defense, just like your charting system.
Yes.
Like, I don't tell you to give clinical care and then all of a sudden don't chart what you did. So yeah.
Yes, yes, and that's a habit, right? You know that you have to do that. So it's,
Yep.
yeah, those habits that we need to build in business.
Yep.
Super important. So
So Amanda, if people are interested in a consult with you, learn about your services, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
sure, they can check out our website. It's abundantlifebookkeeping.com, or reach me through email at amanda@abundantlifebookkeeping.com.
Yep. Yeah, you've been growing your team. I know you've got some great resources with you. Everybody that I've sent your way have been glowingly happy, which is a rare thing in nowadays society to have a service like that. So I have nothing but good things to say about Amanda and what she's doing. And every midwife, no matter how big or small you are, should have a bookkeeper on your team.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate that word.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.